All right, so you just bought FL Studio Producer Edition. You have no idea where to start, and you want to make hip hop beats like Griselda, Conductor, all the goats who are really transitioning our attention back to classic hip hop. So in this video, we're not going to use a sample because I feel like that eats up a lot of the teaching you stuff, but we will cover samples in a different video. This video is how do you compose hip hop from scratch using stock plugins in FL Studio. You guys will get the project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com, sign up for free, and go to where it says free downloads. So let's hop straight into FL. I'm going to be producing over my speakers, so I'm going to have to mute my mic every now and again. But the first step is to get the lay of the land, as they say. We're going to open up the piano roll here. No, the playlist is this button here. And this is where we're going to map out all the puzzle pieces. I like to produce in song mode more than pattern mode. Pattern mode is like when I want to zoom in on a specific puzzle piece and make sure all the details are right. Song mode is like, what does the puzzle actually look like? You know what I mean? So that's the difference. Here is the piano roll. Not that you guys need to memorize these buttons, but if you ever get lost in FL Studio, these 5 buttons right here are all you need to know. You click here, this opens that thing. You click here, it opens that thing. You click here, it opens the channel rack. Click here, it opens the mixer. And then click here, it opens the browser. So we're gonna use some drums from my new pack called Blueprint. It's coming out soon, but you guys will get the project files for free, which will have the sounds in it. So don't try to like memorize everything. The first thing is getting the 4 layers. So firstly, we're gonna go to what's called the song mode. Click here, which is called the playlist. And then we're gonna right click on track 1 and hit R. So I recommend this for beginners to advanced. This advanced system works all the time. So we're gonna rename this top line. The second section here is going to be called the harmony section. The third section here is called the contrast section. The fourth section here is called the rhythm section. So these are the 4 sections of each song and each beat that basically make up the DNA of the beat. Now, on top of these, you can layer these with what's called the expression layer. So the top line expression layer, the harmony expression layer, the contrast expression, and ultimately the rhythm expression. So the rhythm expression might be something like a hi-hat roll, or some exaggerated way of going about it. So we'll get into what all this means in a little bit. So now you guys have the basic map of what you're building. Now it's time to build the pieces. So we're gonna go through my kit. Blueprint is not out, but it will be at busyworksbeats.com. So don't worry about finding it here, but let me find the project files here. And so in Blueprint, we have drum breaks. I have one-shot stuff for you guys. So let's probably do the one-shot stuff for now. Okay, so firstly, we need to find a kick, a hi-hat, and a snare. Those are the key ingredients to our drums. So I'm going to cycle through our library here to find some stuffs. All right, so we found a nice kick. Now let's find a hi-hat, which I already know which one works. These are going to work. So let's right click, open a new channel. And then we need our snare. So I'm going to mute my mic for a second. All right, so I'm giving you guys the good stuff in terms of our drum sounds here. So we have the hi-hat, we have the kick, and the snare. So from this point, we're going to go to what's called the pattern mode. If you guys want to hit enter, you could start your sequence. And what you want to do is set the BPM. So for boom bap, like Griselda style, we're going to go to like 77 BPM, 82 BPM, 84. That's the range we're going to stick in for this slower hip hop. So once you have your sounds, you're going to go to this button called the channel rack, and you're going to double click everything to highlight everything, hit Control L. When you click in the mixer, this will send everything to the mixer so that you can edit individual sounds differently. Like if you just want to solo in on my skin and saturate the skin, can become brighter. If you want to go into my eyes and make them brighter, you could do it that way. So we're separating the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak. All right, so now we have the kick, the hi-hat, the snare. Let's start building a rhythm first. I recommend rhythm first for you guys who are beginners. Unless you truly understand composition, but there's a long diatribe about that. What we're going to do is go to song mode here. We're going to make sure we have what's called the picker panel open. If you don't see this, click your playlist options, go to where it says picker panel, and then enable the picker panel, pick the pack of peppers. Okay, now you're going to drag it on in and drag it to about 4 bars in this case, or 2 bars, actually, 2 bars. And we're going to go back to where it says pattern 1, because this says pattern 1. We're going to go to the channel rack here, and we're going to build our drum sequence in the pattern rack, channel rack, but we're going to hear it in the song mode. That sounds convoluted, but basically if I hit the space bar, We're going to turn on what's called the metronome. This will keep track of the time. And now if I hit Control B, I hit Control to highlight this, hit Control B to latch paste. Let me make sure I do that from scratch so they don't overlap. So highlight it, hit Control B to latch paste for about 16 bars. This will give you a good template to kind of build around. Now from this point, what we want to do is build our drums as we're listening to it in real time. So we're going to go hit spacebar on the song mode. We're going to go to where it says channel rack, and now we're going to build our drums. So a shortcut here is to click somewhere on the right somewhere and right click and fill each 2 steps for the hi-hat, or right click and fill each 4 steps, depending on what kind of groove you guys want. And we're going to put the snare on the 2, and so I'm not even hearing the beat yet. We're going to put the snare on the 2 and the 4. What that means is every time the metronome clicks, we're going to put we're going to count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to put the snare on the 2 and the 4 for this genre. So basically the red spots in this case. So we're just going to do that for each one here. And what we want to do is just make sure that we have 2 bars in the actual playlist here. It looks like I went over 2 bars. So let's just get rid of some of these notes over here. Just right click to get rid of notes in your channel rack. You guys don't need to be perfect about this because of the way the playlist works. But long story short, we have 2 bars. Okay, so if we want more movement, we can add another hi-hat. Let me show you guys how to create variations here. We are going to right click, fill each 4 steps this time, and we're going to hit Control Shift and use the arrows on our keyboard left and right to move these notes around. So now it goes hi-hat 1, hi-hat 2, hi-hat 1, hi-hat 2, and this creates a more realistic bounce. So again, I haven't even heard the beat yet, and I already know that it's what we need. So nextly, we're going to add a kick. The kick usually goes on the downbeat, the first click, 1, and then it goes kick, 3, C, O, kick, 3, C, O, kick. That's usually the pattern. So boom, 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 boom. Okay. And then basically we're going to take out that 3rd hit of a kick so it's not too many hits. So now you have your basic hip hop pattern. We can change that over time, but let's just build around this pattern. Okay, so now we have that. We're in song mode. We're going to go to a new pattern. It's very important to separate the patterns in FL Studio. All right, now for the instruments, we're going to use Flex. Flex is good for realistic instruments. So let's open up Flex. Let's go to the Store tab and download any of the essential packs here. Let's go to the Library tab, download the Essential Pianos, Essential Strings, Essential Winds, and let's start with the piano pack. Let's go to Yamaha C7. What I like to do is turn off the reverb and the filter and the limiter so it doesn't change the sound. And let's up the volume envelope release. This knob here, just turn that up a little bit. So what we want to do is compose. Now, composition comes down to 4 main layers. We have the top line layer, that is the memorable melody. We have the harmony section. This is the chords of the song. We have the contrast layer. This is the bass of the song, and the rhythm section. So we can have all those things combined into the melody composition. What we're going to do is go to the channel rack. We're going to right click and go to the piano roll. This is where we can draw out notes starting from bar 1. What I recommend you guys do is change your snap to grid to 1/2 beat, especially at 82 BPM, or 1/4 beat. Go back to the playlist, go to song mode, and we're going to drag in pattern 2. Even though it's blank, we're going to drag it in for about 4 bars. So now we're going to write music as we listen to the beat. And let's hit Control B. So we're not going to hear anything now, but let's double click to go inside of pattern 2. And if it doesn't open up the piano roll, right click and select the piano roll from your piano. So from this point, we're going to draw in notes, and I'm going to do this over my earphones just so I can hear the notes, but we're going to produce over the speakers though. So what we want to do here is add these notes. So let's right click. Let's choose a really low note, like A2, for example, and A1. It might be too low. Let's try A2 and A3. If you don't see these numbers or letters, go to the top left, go to where it says View, go to where it says Key Labels, All Notes, so that you can see every single label. So we're going to drag this note out. Just hit Control to highlight the note, left click and drag it out. And then our ear wants to change, so let's left click the ending here. We're gonna add a note, just one note above. This is called a half step. And we're gonna copy these notes, hit Control, hit Shift, left click, drag it over. So this is called the contrast layer. Let's go back to the song mode. Let's hit Shift down to pull that down to the contrast layer. All right, now we need harmony to this kind of bass line. So we're gonna extend these notes out. Let's go to a new pattern. Let's go to our pattern selector, go to pattern 3, right click, select piano roll. Let's add A, and then let's add CE. You guys don't need to memorize all this stuff. Just copy these notes for now. So we have ACE as the chord. Okay, so let's drag this out, hit Control, left click to drag these notes. And at the very end, instead of taking all the notes, pulling them up one, we're gonna take the middle note, pull it up to the note D. This creates what's called a suspended chord. Okay, so let's copy the same chord over. We could also, if we want to start off with a more tense sound, we could pull this note down. So it's A, B, E, and then we'll pull it back up to C. That's a little too tense. So let's just do this method for now. So instead of repeating, what we're going to do is pull that last note down to B. That creates a suspended second chord. This is a suspended fourth chord. So this is called the harmony, the chords of the track. Let's go to the song mode and add that in the harmony section. So see how these are puzzle pieces to our track. Now, right now, this sounds very computerized because there's no dynamic in it. So let's grab the ellipses at the bottom here, pull that up, switch this to where it says note velocity so you can see the individual hardness of how hard we're playing each note. Go to where it says tools, and we're going to go to humanize. Okay, so you guys can change this start time range and then mess with the start time offset. And then also you can mess with the velocity offset and the velocity range. You don't necessarily have to mess with the offset. You just mess with the range. So basically it creates a random value for each one of these things in that range, which makes it sound more human. Let's grab the slice tool, hit Shift, right click to delete any of the excess over the bar. If it goes over the bar, we'll go a whole nother bar. Also, we need to make sure notes aren't overlapping. Long story short, there's a script for this in image line forms. If you guys search up remove overlaps piano roll script, and we're going to use that here just to save time. Basically, it gets rid of any overlapping notes. If notes overlap, FL Studio mutes them for some reason. So now this has a more human feel to it. Okay, so we need more grit in the sound. Let's go back to pattern 2. Let's see if we turn up the velocity for these bass notes. Will it give us a different expression in the note? Usually it does. It's not just a volume. Now we get more grit out of the sound. Now for this, let's just go down to the half step instead of that suspended second chord. That way it doesn't sound so tense at the end there. Now I'm giving you guys very like cookie cutter stuff, but you can make this sound way more human if you play it by hand. Let's create a top line here. So let's left click, add this in. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a quick system. I don't have time to explain everything about everything. That's what my courses are for at busyworksbeats.com. They go in much more depth and I guide you guys step by step as a beginner. Right click, go to piano roll. What we're gonna do is create a 7-note system to create a melody. So we're going to start at the root note of our chord, which is A. Let's find a new pattern here. Start at A. We're going to count up 5 notes. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to start at A again, count up 7 notes. This is going to give us what's called the perfect fifth at E. We're not going to play all these notes at once. We're just using this as a template. We're going to go start at the root note A, count up 5 notes, and then start at the root note again, count up 7 notes, and then add a note above that note and below that note. And then above the tonic and below the tonic here. So now we have a 7-note system that we can use to create melodies. So all we're going to do is pull from the 7-note system as if it's like a mini scale. Let's drag this over here as a reference, turn the volume off. So we're going to usually start at the root note, hit Alt, left click to restore the velocity. Now we're going to change our snap to grid to 1/4 beat or 1/2 beat and just add in notes. And all we're going to do is go from the root note to the perfect fifth, which is 7 notes up. And then we can go anywhere from here. Usually it's a half step back down. Now this last note can be anything, so let's just pick a different note. And we could literally copy this whole structure, hit Control, Shift, left click. And then we can switch out the notes so it's not just repeating itself. So this is what this little scale over here is for. We could use any of these notes. Usually the ear wants to change at the end of stuff. So when we go out of key, for those who are aware, we're going out of key at the end of the phrase. So, okay, so it doesn't matter what key we're in, this always works. Now again, I go into much more depth about how to make this feel more human, but let's just add our humanized script here. Now it's called the top line because the top line usually sits over top of the chords. What I recommend is that we pull this up at least 1 octave higher than the chord progression. So this octave could work, or we could pull it up another octave, Control up. So I like this vibe. Let's pull the BPM down to 77. And now we're going to start adding effects to make this, let's maybe go to 80 BPM. So now I'm going to move a little bit quicker here because this is more sound design. Let's go to the channel rack, make sure every sound is accounted for in the mixer. And we don't have a bass line either, which we can add. So let's do that now, actually. Let's go to the channel rack, hit the plus icon, go to Flex. Flex has bass in here. So if you go to Essential Bass, here's some bass we could use. We're going to turn off reverb, delay, filter in the limiter. Hit Control L. Let's go to the mixer. And we don't have to be crazy with the bass line here. So you guys can right click here, select the scale if you want. I'm just gonna play on my keyboard to speed up time. Just gonna go down the scale, down to A. I was thinking too much, that's what I get. Let's try that again. All right, so now we have the notes. We're going to start cleaning up the sounds and making them more aggressive. Let's double click, hit Alt Q to quantize. Now this is in the mix. So the beat feels a little slow. Let's speed it back up. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit quicker here with the mixing because this, again, could take an hour explaining every little thing here. Let's go to our mixer. We're going to right click, insert A, call this drums as a group. We're going to hit Alt left or right to move it around. Highlight all your drums, hit Control to highlight the drums, right click and route to this track only. So now all the sounds of the drums are going to the drums group. And now we can add more aggression to the drums and start separating the sounds here. Let's open up what's called the Fruity Mixer, or excuse me, Fruity Limiter. Let's turn the ceiling all the way up, turn the saturation down, and then turn the gain knob up into the saturator. So this will give us a little more grit on the drums. Let's open up a parametric EQ2, just turn down the volume a little bit on the left side. Let's boost up the lows with this and then change the frequency to around 60 hertz, 60 or 75. And also the drums sound a little stiff because they're just right on the grid. So let's go to the hi-hat. Let's trim the hi-hat for now. Go to the wrench tool, turn up time shift. So do that for each hi-hat, add a little time shift. We're also going to add another kick in here. So boom, boom, boom. Let's add a double kick here at the ends here, and then go to graph editor, turn the velocity down. Go to the velocity tab, just turn it down. And then we're going to turn up what's called the swing parameter here in the top right. Actually, we don't need it for this beat. So now let's start delaying the snare sounds. First, let's delay the clap. Let's turn up the time shift under the wrench tool. Let's delay the snare. So now it has that groove. So I just realized the kick has a hi-hat over it. So let's go to the kick, go to the envelope tab. We're gonna mess with what's called the Mod X. This is a low pass filter, which gets rid of the high frequencies by default. Now we get rid of that hi-hat there. To make the kick hit a little harder, we're gonna go to the kick, click on it. Go to the front tab here, go to where it says pre-computed effects and mess with the boost here. Now the kick hits harder. Let's mix the bass a little bit. Let's go to the bass sound here. Let's add a fruity wave shaper. Go to the bottom here with the gear icon. Let's turn it up to 4 times oversampling. Turn the mix level to about 50%. Turn the curvature up a little bit. Let's add saturation to the bass. Let's mess the pre and the mix level and the post level. The bass doesn't need to be super strong because the kick is strong. And now we need the piano to feel more haunted, so let's go to a new mixer insert. Let's call this reverb. Let's open up Fruity Reverb 2. Let's right click, hit R to reset the wet level, turn the dry level down. Separate the stereo enhance. Actually, let's pull it to the right. This makes it mono. Up the decay curvature and take out the low frequencies in the reverb. And then we're gonna left click on the piano and left click the up arrow to send it to the reverb. So now it's gonna go through this reverb. It gives it more depth. Let's add a fruity limiter to this piano. Turn the ceiling up first to go to compressor mode, and then let's mess with this compressor side. Let's add a little attack here. So I'm compressing the piano for more of a glue sound. Let's add a parametric EQ2. Turn up the levels here. We could change the drum timing, or we could change the piano timing to fit so it's not like not matching the kick. So let's change our snap to grid to 1/4 beat so we can get more granular with the movements here. So we're going to keep the same notes, but then move them around here. So now it has more bounce to it. So now we have the bounce inside of the piano and not just the drum. So we can make this even more haunted. Let's add some more plugins to the piano. Actually, let's go to the reverb. Let's add a plugin here, the new plugin called Transporter. This is an FL Studio 2024 plugin. So let's open up Transporter. We're gonna just turn up these 3 knobs at the bottom here, the reverse, the octave, and the down up knob. We're gonna set this to tempo mode. So basically we're taking the reverb and we're gonna create a granulized reverb out of it. So that's what we're doing here. Just gonna add a subtle texture. So it adds this like glittery sound to the track. Let's switch up the kick pattern a little bit. So just moving that kick over 1 step changes the whole groove. For this hi-hat, we're gonna actually go back and right click only one hi-hat, fill each 2 steps, go to the graph editor, go to the velocity tab, turn down every other hi-hat. So it's not 2 different tones on the hi-hat. And we're just gonna keep mixing up this kick pattern until it fits this vibe. So we can get crazy with the pattern there. We're gonna take out the clap or turn it down. I think I'm just gonna take out the clap. Actually, we need that clap for the tone. Let's go back to the top line. Let's highlight all these, hit Control G in the song, double click. What I want to do is turn all this down. Let's hit Alt X and just turn down the velocity multiplier. so it's not super loud. Actually, let's turn it back up. Let's run it through the compressor a little bit more. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how to add a little vibe to your track. Let's add Fruity Delay 3 to the piano track. We're gonna turn down the dry level, turn the feedback level down, turn the delay time all the way down. Everything else becomes an effect. Let's move the time modulation. Mess with the saturation. This is gonna add more of a vibe. We could also add the dry level back for chorus, it's called. I'm going to filter out the bass a little bit with an EQ. Let's use a low pass filter here. So it feels more like we sampled it. Let's go to our master channel here. Let's go to Fruity Limiter. Turn up the ceiling here. Let's mess with the saturation. Add an EQ2, boost up the levels here. Let's run it through another Fruity Limiter. Let's turn the ceiling off. Let's turn it on compressor mode. Add the attack at like 30 milliseconds here. Release at about 100 milliseconds. You can read the value in the top left. Turn the ratio up to about 2:1 in the top left. You can read that value. Next up, we're gonna add a Fruity Limiter here. Ceiling, you gotta turn it up. Compressor mode, we're gonna go to the opposite direction. So it's not 2:1 or 4:1, it's like 0.5:1 ratio. Pull down the threshold. You guys don't need to like map this all out. Just pull the release time to shorter so it has a fast attack. And basically every time the sound goes above this threshold, it will boost the volume based on our ratio. Now we need to cap out the volume here. Let's go to Fruity Limiter. And now we're gonna actually use this as a limiter here with just a ceiling. I think the first knob here is an input gain, but let's add a parametric EQ2. This will control the input volume. So again, if you guys want to learn mixing, go to busyworksbeats.com. It's just too much to teach in this short video. So now we're going to push the volume into the mixer. you want to arrange this, I have videos about how to arrange. You would use your expression layers or simply change out the thing at that specific point. So this is a contrast layer. So instead of using the piano bass, you might take out the contrast from the piano. All right, now we're going to do different styles of hip hop. So just go to busyworksbeats.com to get these project files for free and to learn FL Studio for free. All right, guys, subscribe if you're new. Peace.